1 moment. And we're live with the Carol Linden, and she's just asked me to make it bigger, and I will. Here we go. So today we're going to be doing NE in the lead position, and it's in the lead position for ENFP. And so this is the social mission block. And the idea here is that in ENFP, you know how Kersey called the ENFP the champion?
Yes, yes, and I read that, and he's absolutely right. We absolutely get inspired by something, and we stand on the soapbox and champion it. Yeah.
Right. So you could say that the actual championing part of that, the advocating part of that, being expressive part is like a sort of strong, unvalued FE, like being emotionally expressive, and so you're using that to serve the NE. So that's what this means by the creative function.
Okay.
There.
And Kersey would say that ENFPs, well, people who do introverted feeling, when we go to use extroverted feeling, we use it in a louder way than people who are more skilled at extroverted feeling. He said people who lead with it, like ENFJs, INFJs, they get how big an impression it makes on somebody, so they use it more judiciously. He said that's why when introverted feelers like me use it, we use it louder in a bigger way, and sometimes we have it can make us impactful, but it also means sometimes we don't realize it's overwhelming to other people. Does that make sense?
Right. Now, sorry. Now, who said that? Was that?
John Beebe said that.
Right. Okay.
Beebe said that, as you know, introverted feeling, yes, I do use extroverted feeling, but when I do, I use it in a bigger, overwhelming, less skillful way than an extroverted feeler would. And you're right, I would use it to serve my introverted feeling values and ideals.
Right. We're going to do anything. We're going to have to, because Cal has brought this point up, we're going to have a slight digression and talk about.
I didn't mean to digress you. I'm sorry.
But now, really, that should be in the next hangout.
Okay.
But I'm gonna mention it. I need to show. That's an old hand-drawn version. I need to show ESFP because there actually is something in there about. There's a couple of ENTPs. Look at them. Right. Father and son.
Father and son, yeah.
Right, I need to bring that up.
By the way, in the future, I want those brain pictures. I love those brain pictures you've got there.
Okay, yeah, I got them. I had to hunt them down in order to get them. Oh, and more distraction. This one's the best one, INTJ. I'll just let you look at that. We only have 40 minutes, but there you go.
Got it. Okay. For the future, make a note. I loved your brain pictures.
Okay. Well, I didn't actually create them, but I did find them and thought they were fantastic. Right. Now, this is from a system called Podlair, which is basically just trying to rip off MBTI and turn it into a bit of a cult.
Okay.
What am I? I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for, because you brought up the creative function. You brought up now this is a diagram using the words from Kersey of ESFP.
Okay.
And all these are quotes from the ESFP profile in that green box. So Cal, I'll let you have a look at those words, those quotes. Okay. Which function do you think they sound like?
I hear some introverted feeling in there. Lift others. Now, lift other spirits. That sounds like maybe that's extroverted feeling. Yep. Charming is extroverted feeling.
Yep.
Emotionally expressive. Yeah. I think Kersey's right. I think we introverted feelers use extroverted feeling. We just use it in a more overboard way than extroverted feelers. You're right. I see extroverted feeling there.
I think it's because I think it's everyone who has got E and F in their type code is going to be using extroverted feeling, whether they value it or not. Now, to be honest, ESFPs, well, it depends how well developed they are and like their Enneagram, but with a lot of ESFPs, they're using the FE charm to like bring attention to themselves, but then also they can also be like instinctively kind and stuff. But so they use it in a, so it's like those qualities there are very similar to ESFJ, so they can use the same behaviors but for different reasons to attain different goals.
Understood. My grandfather, one of my grandfathers was an ESFP. I mean, off the charts ESFP. When he was a young man, they said he could charm birds out of trees. He was just and he was the old guy at the church who had the camera all the time, taking pictures for everybody. He was like Santa Claus, okay? He was just a classic, beautiful, fun ENFP, and everybody loved him.
Now, I was rather disappointed by the redneck name for entertainer performer, because it didn't really give me much. So I actually went there.
Now, I know what redneck means because I'm from the South, so I'm not real thrilled with that being there.
I know, but I just went. I thought it would be like a more entertaining like nickname for it. Like it would no,
redneck is a bit of an insult to an uneducated Southerner.
Yeah. But what have we got here? I'll just. Oh yes, this is, and on here I mentioned about here because. So here I'm saying it's used. You could almost say that FE is used tactically by the ESFP.
Oh, that makes total sense. I can see that.
And you could say that it's used idealistically by the ENFP to champion their cause.
Oh, Ben, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. I would use it to persuade others for the cause I'm trying to get. Yeah, absolutely. Good reasoning.
Right, here we go. Right, so now we got to go. I've got about 300 slides in here, so I've got to try and not get lost. Right, so I'm looking for M for model G.
Okay.
That's probably, what's this? At F, I need M. Oh, L, I need model G explanation.
You said G. You said you wanted G.
Oh yeah, the sound must have cut out. Let's see if this says M. I need to get back to. Oh, that's N. I need to get to M.
Okay.
I think it's this one. Yes, there we are. So,
okay.
So we're looking at this. We're looking at this blue square.
Okay.
So it's just basically, it's very similar to MBTI here. It's like dominant function. It's the one that sets the agenda.
Right.
Victor does his trans-contextual thinking, and he says, okay, I'm going to compare my model to the tote model. And so he says it's like, you know, in the tote model, you got test, operate, test, exit, and it's like the thing that sets the agenda. Now, to be honest, it's an imperfect comparison with the tote model, but, you know, right, but we won't go too much into that because we've not got that much time. But the thing in here, it's like Dario Nardi, the high EEG activity in regions correlated with the Jungian function in this position. And usually what you get with that, folks, is that judging functions tend to be localized in like specific areas of the brain, and the perceiving functions tend to be sort of delocalized.
Oh, interesting.
So the whole brain patterns, apart from like things like apart from SI tends to be localized at the back of the brain.
That makes sense. Dario would. I took Dario's brain, neuroscience class of the brain, and I remember him talking about the Christmas lights pattern. Yes. Extroverted ENTP and ENFP, the introverts somewhat, but those two in particular who lead with extrovert intuition, we use the Christmas tree pattern more than anybody else, which the brain just lights up or going all over the place, searching for things that are related. And that to me sounds like what you're talking about, that's not localized.
Mine might be even more. I have epilepsy and an INFP. So then here we go. So we have, here's the thing about maximum energy. So this makes sense. People have maximum energy for their lead function. And in fact, here's a key thing. not just maximum energy, in fact, more than optimum energy. Who'd have thunk it? People overindulge in their lead function.
Oh, no, we all know that. Of course we do that.
Yeah. And then we have this thing where it's also the lead function is, this is where it gets a little bit complex, an externality rather than an internality. And that is where it's the thing that's, according to Victor, it's the thing that's directed out towards society and has a greater scope of use.
Okay.
And whereas something which is an internality, okay, a better way to explain this would be, in the back of Dario Argento's book, 8 Keys to Self-Leadership, he wrote, based on some research that he'd done at the time, that introverts report greater comfort with all of their introverted functions overall than their extroverted functions. And the same with extroverts, that they show a greater comfort with all of their extroverted functions overall compared to their introverted ones. So that's a little bit, and that is actually replicated in this model where for an extrovert, all of the externality functions are extroverted and the internality functions are introverted. And for an introvert, all of the externality functions are introverted functions. And the extroverted functions are an internality, which means that they come more into effect at close range. So, for example...
Okay, wait, Ben, just Maria, could we ask you to mute? We're getting a lot of background noise.
Yeah, okay, I will be decisive.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry. I was just having trouble hearing.
Okay, the best example is, you know, we INTPs are not exactly the most sociable types, or unless we're talking about a subject that we're interested in. And then we may start resembling you, Carol. We may start resembling an ENFP. This is what I've been told by Maria. So a lot of people, they look at me in Hangouts and they go, he's an ENTP or an ENFP. He is not an INTP. But that's the thing about, this is the thing about territory. So you see here for internalities, at close psychological distance, functions included in the bottom row are called internalities, which means they're aimed at its territory.
Okay, right.
Right, but at the moment we're thinking about externalities, and so basically, it's like, say with ISFJ and INFJ, where they have this FE, but it doesn't have the same scope of use as the FE DOMs. But when people are closer to ISFJ and INFJ, then they can be expressive with their FE, but it has to be sort of like within their territory, within their sort of like psychological distance. Then it's almost like a different person and they become more expressive, more FE in their face.
Ben, that makes total sense to me. Thank you. That makes absolute sense to me.
And then we've got some stuff, interesting stuff here, like Victor coming up with an analogy of a rider-horse. And this is the idea that the lead function is supposed to be the rider. So in my case, my rider function normally is TI, and my horse is NE. But when on their territory, INTPs can go a bit, I think David Kersey Jr. called it, he called it flaky. The INTP could just go off talking about stuff, and maybe that's where the NE or horse sort of like loses its jockey.
Yeah, and I lead with it, dear. I have to control that. I have to control that all the time, or I'm just all over the place. And I get that I have to control that to be effective with other people. I so get that. And think about you. At least that's just your horse. For me, it is my rider.
Yeah.
Right, so what was it again about rider and the horse?
Oh, we were just talking about the TI and the NE.
Maria, he was saying that the dominant is the rider and that the horse is the secondary. And he and I are different on those. His rider is introverted thinking and his horse is extroverted intuition. And I'm the opposite. My rider is extroverted intuition, which means if I don't control it, I'm all over the place. And my horse is my
FI in your case.
my judging function. Right.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about.
Thanks. Since you started talking about functions, I was going to say something that has to do with BB model. Knowledges, but I also over time I came with a knowledge of my own. Since I'm very interested in role function, I came to associate it with a sword because it's very sharp, but it's double-edged. You can pretty much like you can fight with it, but it can also hurt you, like when you're using it.
Interesting. Which function, Maria?
Role function, like your SE or Ben's FI.
Yeah, we will come in 2 episodes' time, folks. We will be going on the role function.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to it, Ben.
Excellent. Right. So what we've got to do now is, in fact, what we can do now is have a quick look inside the ENFP's brain because Carol likes this.
Oh, I love. Look at this. This is rainbows and sugar cotton. Thank you very much, Ben.
I didn't create this.
Oh, I really, yeah, this is kind of me.
Can't remember what this is. Oh, this might be an ENFP as well. Oh, this is a joke I did on NE. Oh, I've got to do... Okay. But this was to get the caption. And like you see, you got a man up there, and you got these. And I actually did this in a magazine. Now I didn't win because I was a little bit cocky because I said I didn't want the prize, I wanted the money. But I actually put in as a caption: 2 present-hungry birthday boys refuse to be deterred by new craze in gift wrap.
Those look like watermelons grown in a crate. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Watermelons grown for shipping.
Yeah, but to me it looks like a new craze in novelty gift wrap because it's like square and it looks like it's trying to get inside the present.
That is too funny. I'm a Southerner. That's a freaking watermelon, Ben.
Oh, okay. Right, so right, here we go. So we've got maximum energy. You definitely have maximum energy for NE. No judges. Right, here we go, because I like the function myself. Right, so okay, here we go. So we've got it. So we've got these 2 working together. The next hangout we'll talk about the FE. Carol, how much time have we got left?
I've got another 20 minutes.
Right. Okay. So let's go through these bullet points. So I'll let you read through the first one, and then if you can comment on it, please.
Am I supposed to be looking at FE now?
No. NE minus.
NE, got it. Okay.
Do you perfectly see the motives, Carol? Or are you hit and miss?
You know, I'm not it sounds a bit much to say perfectly, but it's like I get a gestalt sense of it. And whenever I don't listen to that gestalt sense, I always get burned because it's almost always right. If there's something untrustworthy about somebody, I pick up on it. And then, but my niceness doesn't like making that decision, so I try to talk myself out of it. But yeah, I can kind of feel if there's good or bad vibes coming from somebody. And number 2, go ahead.
For number 1,
yeah.
STPs hate it when ENFPs do that.
Oh.
When they try to like ascribe a motive to their action, where usually they just did something that was a bit, because they felt like doing it. And they're like, no, it's not because I'm evil.
Well, we teach in type that the more different your preferences are, the more likely it is you get it wrong or very wrong when you try to ascribe motives to something. So that's why we should be very careful of keeping it to ourselves and not going around ascribing motives, right? And number 2, definitely, oh my gosh, absolutely. And it's not conscious, it just happens. And encouraging and infusing hope, I cannot keep myself from saying what's right about a situation. It just comes out of my mouth what's right about a situation and stating the positive. Advises on finding a way out of complicated situations in life. Well, when I'm asked, probably, but God knows I've got my own complicated situations. Alternative penetrates into new and unusual events. Yeah, probably. Searches for an occupation to his liking. Oh, absolutely. I have to love what I'm doing. I don't understand even why you would want to do it for a living if you don't love it. I don't know that I constantly change my interests, but I will say an INTJ colleague once said that I had the widest open filter of anybody he'd ever met in his life. And I think he was referring to my extroverted, that I led with extroverted intuition. And it meant, I think we do have a much more open filter and likely to get interested in umpteen different things because they don't have to have a purpose for us to get interested. We just have to be interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We just have to find it interesting. There doesn't have to be a reason for it.
I'm going to talk a little bit about static versus dynamic, and then I'll go through the NE PDF.
Okay, please.
Now, with the extroverts, it's quite clear that, well, I don't want to talk too much about this because it is quite a complex one, but what I'll say is that Socionics and MBTI has a little bit of a difference when it comes to introverts when it looks at the JP question. So,
Okay.
for example, somebody like me, an INTP, is MBTI will say, we're going to judge the JP based on external behavior. And so the INTP does not have a lot of energy for TE, but they think about TE things a lot. So when I actually do a test, I will actually score as an INTJ, but that's, and as Jeff said, I'm a wannabe J, where it's like I will plan it to, like, to do the thing, but I don't do it, I don't execute it. So it's like internally I'm organized because it's like I'm leading with a rational judging function, but in terms of like implementation, I'm not doing it. Now it's opposite with INTJ, where inside they got this weird NI thing going on.
Right.
But in terms of their external organization, and also in terms of like turning up to appointments and organization time, they're organized that way. But in terms of static dynamic, it's if you looked at somebody like INTJ or ISTJ, you would say, oh, their behavior, they're always on time, they seem pretty static. But I came up with this idea of maybe, and then also like the SI DOMs, they get annoyed if like their environment isn't quite right, like if the wallpaper's not right or something's slightly off, it like upsets their mood. And so it's like they have to organize their environment in order to calm themselves down.
Yes, my mother, ISTJ out the wazoo, if anything's out of place, she's not comfortable in the room, she'll cross the room to close the closet door because she can't sit in the room with the closet door open.
Right, so that's my idea of like trying to like make it concrete, is like the idea that internally the SI and NI DOMs are dynamic, externally they are static, and the same with SPs. I would say the SPs are bored out of their mind because internally they're static, externally they look dynamic and like all over the place and stuff, and it's because they're static, their mood is static, they're bored, they need to do things where, so it's like a compensation thing between the inside and the outside. It's just that it's easier to see the outside behavior, and this is why I think there's a problem with Socionics and MBTI when you're looking at JP. I'll talk a little because we've got about 15 minutes left, so we're going to look at the NE presentation that I did about a couple of years ago. Right, so this is my creative function, thinking about time. Right, we've got about 15. Hopefully this, yes, it works. It shows on screen, but sometimes it doesn't work.
Carol, did you say your mother is INTJ?
ISTJ.
ISTJ?
Yes.
I was thinking that what you were referring to, like crossing the room to close the door, it's more informative about her subtype than type, because there are connective subtypes and ignorative subtypes.
Oh yeah, she's very aware, and there has to be perfect orderliness in her external environment for her to be comfortable.
Well, orderliness is like something that has to do with her creative function, and if we have a problem in the area of creative function, it gives us a lot of trouble. Like if an ESFP has a reputation problem, or a harmony problem for that matter, or if ESTP has a work, like career problem, it sort of makes a person depressed.
Okay.
So that's the creative function thing, but also it has to do with being connective versus ignorative, like those all those things like about women giving birth with candles and music and all that stuff. It's for connective subtypes.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
I would I wouldn't care about anything. I was inside my head, inside my body. All the environment didn't matter. So
makes sense. I'm oblivious to it, and it just blows my mother's mind that I'm oblivious to it, and she is anal retentive about it. Just blows her away. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben. You were drawing us to this slide.
Yeah, we've got. Have we got about 15 minutes left, Carol?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So we've got here Carl Jung's definition of SE and NE, and like you've got a little bit of. I recently learned some new stuff about some that will help with the theory, and that is I was listening to a podcast of like Partially Examine Life, and they were talking about William James, and he talks about the essential feature of willpower is focus, and then that made me think of Dario Nardi talking about extroverted sensing being immersing yourself in the present context. So the ability of the SE type of the SE to like focus on a thing, and then the connection between that focus and willpower, whereas NE types are more likely to see like different opportunities and maybe go around the problem rather than directly confront it and find like maybe an ingenious solution and see other, whereas SE types that see more of an opportunity, it's like, that's my track, I'm going on that track. So that's on like an intellectual level, plus also they get a bit of a kick out of it, out of the confrontation.
Ben, that makes total sense to me. I will find a way around it, over it, or under it.
Yeah, and with ENFPs, they will show their extroverted sensing in terms of resistance, in terms of someone's trying to put the force on them, trying to control them, they will use that in a resistant way. Now we'll talk about that in the third hangout in the SE.
Okay, thanks.
SE hangout. Although that is more, although theoretically SE minus for the role function of ENF, but you know they are resistant. We know ENFPs are like trying to get ENFPs into hangouts is like trying to like herd cats. So we've been successful with you, right? Are
you kidding? I love the stuff you talk about. Why wouldn't I be here?
Right. So we got here. One of the problems I initially had with socionics is like some of the definitions of it would say that the potential was in the object, and I was like, I don't like that. That's a little bit too mystical. It's like objects have properties, and it's like 10 different people can look at the same object and like connect it and make different connections and use those properties. And so that's why you got Carl Jung saying there himself, we don't know how much is in the object and how much is put into it, how much is read into it. So there,
that makes sense.
You've got there an active creative process that puts into the object just as much as it takes out. And then we've got Dario talking about NE, and I love this. Stimuli are springboards to generate analogies and ideas.
Absolutely, amen.
And then we have the example of Douglas Adams of Solution to right, and then I'll go through this. So basically, this is a science fiction thing. At the end of the first episode, the two heroes, Arthur and Ford Prefect. Now, Ford Prefect was an alien, and he didn't do his research very well. He thought the dominant life force on Earth was cars, so he named himself after the Ford Prefect car. And
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I get it.
Yes, they get thrown into space, and it's like the big thing is made. Oh no, they're gonna be rescued within 30 seconds, or they're gonna die from asphyxiation. How am I gonna rescue them? And so now I have then a bit more. Then we'll get to the conversation about solving that problem that he had. Like, how do I rescue my two heroes? And the problem is, well, whatever solution I come up with is just really, really improbable. How do I get around this problem? And so, and then just a little bit, I read this just a little bit there, and I'll ask you what you think of that, Carol, whether you agree with this on screen.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard Dario talk about this, NE and trans-contextual thinking, absolutely. And we do it without intending to. We naturally do it. It's amazing that it's called a thing, because I think it's how we think, frankly. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's like the natural thing. It's like Jeff saying, I can't remember, Jeff, what was I can't remember. Yes, the ability to see patterns and relationships in one situation and match those to many other seemingly very different situations, but where the context still holds. And yeah, but Dario will write things in his book, 8 Keys to Self-Leadership, where this can be very annoying to people who do not value that process, because like changing the subject. Right.
Yes, I have had to learn to teach intuitives. Other people cannot see the path you took in your head. Say it out loud, because you didn't lose them because they're stupid. That's not fair. Yeah. You lost them because you took an invisible path that they can't see.
Yeah, but also what it is, a lot of the time it's where there is a connection, but it's a connection to a subject that I'm interested in, and it's sort of like it becomes like you have to teach MPs not to be self-indulgent, to use NE to find a connection to a subject that they want to talk about.
Good luck with that, Ben.
So here we go. I'll let you read that, Carol, and then I'll scroll down when you give me the word to scroll down.
And probability drive, that is. So I remember this. I saw this series. I actually read the original radio scripts.
Very good. NP points.
Writing the early part of Hitchhiker. That's right, with 36. The thing I suddenly became worried about at that point and terribly concerned about, absurdly overconcerned about, was that I'd put them in an impossible situation, and that is what a sort of cliffhanger is. Okay, that all makes sense. Had to get them out, wasn't possible, and I got completely and utterly stuck. Oh, that's brilliant. I don't think I could have thought of that, but that's brilliant that he did. And it makes total sense that an extroverted intuitor would get the answer from something else totally unrelated, because it made his brain jump over there and see something new. That totally makes sense to me.
But to us, it's like, that's not, and it's like loads of other people. And it's like, obviously the solution to the problem was not contained within the words. It's like there'd be loads of other NPs who would like watching that program at the same time, and they would have heard that, use the weight of the problem against itself, and like would have like tried to use that like thing of like turn a weakness into a strength, try and reframe it. These kinds of things.
Do you think he was ENTP?
Oh, ENTP AF.
Well, that's why I'm probably admiring this as brilliant, is because I think it's his introverted thinking combined with extroverted intuition that made him so brilliant at doing something so abstract as that. I probably would not have. I think it takes TI with NE to do that. That's brilliant.
Also, he showed FI Break in the fact that he had a deal to write the novel with the guy, I've forgotten his name. He finished writing the radio series with somebody else, John Lloyd, the final 2 episodes, because he ran out with ideas. And what they did is they agreed to write the novel themselves. But when it came to, when it was a big success and he came to writing the novel, Douglas Adams says, on your bike, I'm going to write it myself. And then he comes out with a novel that's rather short. But then if you look in hindsight, hang on a minute, the novel just novelizes the first 4 episodes. Therefore, he couldn't get sued by the other guy. But the point is, he agreed to do it. So
yeah, that's a values break, definitely.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yep.
But it was brilliant. I read all the books, and I'll say this and shut up. The great thing about the BBC radio scripts is there were jokes in the directions to the special effects people.
Yeah.
I mean, there were jokes in the things nobody was ever going to hear in the audience. It was delightful reading, and now I've shown what a geek I am, so I'll shut up.
Also, Cal, what they did is they then turned the other books into other radio series, and so they released them.
Oh, I didn't hear the other radio series. Very cool.
Yeah, in fact, I have the books. Pull my shorts down. Let me show you. There we go. Radio scripts. These are the other ones. These are the other radio scripts.
Oh, my word. I never saw those.
Tertiary, quandary, and quintessential phases.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, that was released in probably about 2005, I reckon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, 2005. So if we go back to this in the yellow, I'll let you read that.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yes, and I thought. Oh, yeah, I read that.
Right. Okay.
I think that's a brilliant combination of NE and TI. Brilliant.
And then also what we get here. Now I actually read in the Doctor Who Unfolding Text. Was they actually think that this explanation is actually a spoof of the scientific explanation, and this is almost, and what it is, this is a spoof of logic.
Oh, that's what. And wouldn't introverted thinking do that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't introverted thinking love spoofing the scientific method? Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll let you read through that. Yeah, but this is really, though, this explanation is a punt. Because you still have to create the finite probability generator.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and the next one is... Which bit's made you laugh, Joel?
Another thing they couldn't stand was, it's just funny.
Yeah.
He got lynched by a mob of respectable physicists.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the Big Bang Theory too, so this takes me there too.
Right, and then we've got some.
Wait, before we go. Paraphrase: genius hits a target no one else can see. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I just got to
Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I thought about that with. If you think about the way Aristotle described the Greek tragedy within like certain parameters, where like the hero had to be sort of like make an error that was beyond like sort of like human knowledge, but ultimately they were like a good person. But Aristotle wouldn't be able to perceive a play like Macbeth, which breaks all that. And where you do have a murderer, but Shakespeare has the ability to come up with all of these techniques to gain empathy for Macbeth. And so writing a play like Macbeth went beyond, was a target that Aristotle couldn't see. But Aristotle was sort of like, when he wrote the Poetics, was like how to write a tragedy, well, a Greek tragedy of the types that he'd looked at.
Right. That talent hits a target no one else can hit. That makes me think of the expertise of what I see as an incredible act of extroverted sensing expertise is a sniper. The incredible sense.
Well,
He's a sniper.
You see, that might be SI. I mean, that's one of these things where it's like, you know, sometimes it's where it's not easy to like say, is this an SE thing or an SI thing? I remember Morgan and Jeff talking about this, where it's like, Morgan said, well, there's a lot of SI types, like they like to do the same thing again and again, and they can control their internal state. And I could see an ISTJ.
I do remember hearing from a military type that, for example, the most expert pilots, they're ESTPs.
Yeah.
They're STPs. They're not introverted sensing, but extroverted sensing.
Oh yeah, for the pilots, yeah, I've seen them, yeah. And also, I saw something today about the pilots and what they got up to, the American pilots in the '60s, like taking a bra. They did they got a exclusive contract to write with a Life magazine, and they did little tricks like taking a sandwich up into space. The doctor wasn't happy because it was 2 days old. Taking a bra into space, taking like Japanese Pentel pencils, just so they could have like things to talk about in this magazine. And so I'm thinking,
or sell and make money off of.
Yeah, probably artisans.
Yes, absolutely, probably. I've got two great artisan quotes from early astronauts and test pilots that I'll send you. I do have to go now, but Ben, I've loved every minute of it. Maria, I've loved it. Thank you all.
Right, there we go. And there's the last bit there as Schopenhauer, the actual quote.
Okay. Very nice. Great quotes, dear. I love quotes. Wait a minute. Just, are there particular types that like quotes more than others, or does everybody like quotes they like?
Maria, over to you.
Maria, did particular types like quotes more than others?
No. Well, it's, I would say that for sure the left-spinning NF types would love quotes. Yeah. Because it's just the bite-sized information which they find easy to metabolize.
Well, and it's like there's a special, just a little pleasure in this, just this little bite size of something that just seems a brilliant insight. It's just like there's a pleasure in that. I do have to go pick somebody up. So sorry, y'all. Thank you so much, Ben and Marie. I've loved it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Carol. Right.
Bye-bye.
Just about squeezed everything in. We've got the bullet points in. We did externalities, internalities. So bye-bye, folks. And the next one will be FE Creative in the ENFP with Carol Linden, type professional. And her website is, it's something like effectivewithpeople.com. That's it. Oh, wait a minute. That's just stopped the share screen. I better stop the hangout.